Yeah, right now it's very quiet. It's very dark outside. It's 10 o'clock at night, and there is no power to the island unless you have generator power. We have two commercial generators here at the National Weather Service office, and that's given us power. We have communications here. We also have running water. Most of the island is without water, without power, and without communication. So even your cell phones probably do not work unless you're on a Wi-Fi connection somewhere. It's going to be a long road to recovery, a lot of cleanup. Fortunately, it's not catastrophic damage, but it is pretty extensive across all of Guam right now.
Yeah, give us a sense of just how significant the event was. Some were calling this probably the worst storm in 10 years.
Yeah, we were looking at this being possibly one of the worst typhoons on record. That would have been parallel to Typhoon Karen back in the 1960s. Luckily, this one, it weakened just a little bit upon approach to Guam, but it was one of the worst typhoons we've had in 20 years since 2002 with Typhoon Mawar. This one packed a punch, but what was most noticeable about this that people were terrified about was it was relentless. It continued for hours. Usually these storms, they come, they thrash, and they move offshore. This one lasted for 6 to 8 hours across much of Guam.
So then give us a sense of the kind of damage it can do in that period of time.
Well, we have solar panels from neighboring facilities all across our parking lot. They're all across the yard. Only one car was punctured, but all the other cars, remarkably, not damaged. But buildings all across the island, we've seen several buildings collapse. Usually these are wood and tin structures. Most of our buildings are reinforced concrete buildings. So we live in like bunker style structures because of this reason, the threat of typhoons and the threat of earthquakes. But the jungles, the trees, the mango trees, we have the mango festival coming up this coming weekend. It has been canceled because so many mango trees have collapsed. We lost all of the trees in our yard right here. But it's a lot of defoliation, a lot of small tin structures, wood structures, nearly destroyed, if not completely destroyed. It's going to be a tremendous cleanup.
Yeah, that is heartbreaking. President Biden has said that support will be provided. How resourceful is Guam itself with a cleanup like this, or will resources need to be brought in?
We'll definitely need resources brought in, and we've been very forward-leaning with this whole typhoon threat. We started issuing email alerts from the National Weather Service. This was beginning last week, middle of last week, as it was developing in Micronesia. When the threat became more realized that it was going to be a problem for Guam, we started standing up formal communications and briefings with the Homeland Security. A FEMA team was already sent out here over the weekend, well in advance, just to demonstrate how forward-leaning we are as a community, because we know that we need to get our stuff together in advance of a disaster. And so kudos to the governor of Guam, her administration, the Homeland Security, FEMA, all the territorial and federal partners that joined with us at the Weather Service to really get people prepared. No loss of life. That's remarkable for a Category 4 typhoon. When the governor told me that just a few hours ago, you get goosebumps because we are here to protect life and property, and that's mission accomplished.
Yeah, that it is an emotional moment for you when you hear that kind of news. And as you say, you've learned to live with this kind of threat, but it must become quite difficult living in a place where you are under this sort of constant threat and preparedness.
That's exactly it. And I remember standing up our first heavy weather briefs with the Homeland Security and the Emergency Operations Center. And I was not stressed. I was not anxious. I was not stressed. But I think it was because we're so busy, so focused on communicating the threats, the concerns, the needs to prepare, that it didn't really sink into me personally. When we tell people to prepare, I'm one of those people that need to be prepared because I live here.
Yeah.
And so the night before arrival, I had about an hour to prepare my house as much as possible, and I was in a panic mode because I knew I was going to have problems in the house. I didn't know what I was going to be returning home to, and fortunately, I checked my house today. It was not that bad. I had a lot of flooding. I had a lot of debris and damage on the outside of the house, but the inside, it's fine. It's concrete. The windows held. The typhoon shutters did their job. So, we're resilient people. And as I stated in one of our briefings on Facebook Live before the worst of the typhoon, we are one Guam, we are one Marianas, we get through this together. And so our best assets are our neighbors, because when this stuff happens, the people around us, that's our first line of defense and our first line of response.
And that makes it a community that must be wonderful to live in, despite the challenges that this is going to provide again. We wish you well, and of course, thank you for being at the front line of this as well. Thanks, Landon.
Thank you so much.